When children are victims of sexual abuse, the memory and pain can be repressed for years, if not decades. It's exactly what happened to Roseanne Sliney, whose uncle sexually abused her for years in the late 60s and 70s, starting when she was just 5 years old. For her, debilitating mental health problems started in her 20s and continued for years. And by 2011, when she was 48, she began recalling new disturbing details of the abuse at the hands of her uncle Dominic Braude and several other men. But when she sued in 2012, her case was dismissed because the statute of limitations for civil actions had passed. So Roseanne turned to Beacon Hill and worked with lawmakers to pass a new law extending the statute of limitations, the time to sue, to age 53 or within 7 years of when a survivor discovers the abuse. That change retroactively applied to her case, and once the state's highest court affirmed the new law in 2014, Roseanne finally got her day in court. Then this past Monday, more than 50 years after the abuse began, a judge from Middlesex Superior Court ruled in her favor and ordered her abuser to pay up to $1.6 million. Roseanne Sliney joins me now. Roseanne, it's good to meet you. Thanks for being here. Along with her lawyer, Carmen Durso, who is one of the lead counsels representing 552 clergy abuse survivors and their claims against the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Boston, and he helped lead the legislative campaign as well. Good to see you, Carmen. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Sexually abused from the time you were 5 for a decade, about a decade more until you remembered, and then you endured this in silence for another decade. What was that period of time like when you remembered but you kept it to yourself?
Once I remembered, I was scared because I was afraid to hurt the family. I grew up in a very large Italian-American family. Everyone was very connected and close with each other. I had just lost my mother tragically, and it was her brother, Dominic, that abused me.
Why did you decide, what was the trigger that caused you to finally confront him about this?
So I was having panic attacks, night terrors, and I lost my mom, which was tragic, so I went to my sisters first. And I disclosed to them what had happened. And from there, we basically decided to call the adults in the family. My 2 other aunts and uncles to come over so we could discuss it with them. Their response was well accepted. They acknowledged. They said that they had known. They wanted to help. They asked what they could do. So I felt that we were going to be okay, like we were going to be taken care of.
And when you did confront your uncle, he wrote you back a letter. I'll just read a piece of it. About 11 or 12 years ago, we had a very special relationship with each other. I was very close to you. We did everything together. You were like a flower in spring. And then a little later he says, I had confused my love for you with sex, and it goes on and on. What was your reaction when you first saw that?
It was really hard to read because, I mean, for an adult to confuse his love in that way with a child is just unspeakable.
Don't you wish there was a statute of limitations on talking about this?
Yeah.
You're a courageous soul to even speak about it. So Carmen Durso, fast forward another couple of decades, and there's litigation. A suit is filed, knocked out, as I said before, because she filed it after the statute of limitations.
That's right.
Then what happens?
Well, what I remember the most about our first meeting is my explaining to Roseanne how difficult this would be because of the existing statute of limitations. And she said to me, "What's that?" And I told her. And I told her that there was an effort to change it. And she said, "Is there anything I can do?" Those were, in retrospect, just magic words, because what she did after that was get people committed to this problem, particularly Representative John Lawn. John just grabbed onto this, engaged in negotiations with the Archdiocese of Boston, which had been the largest obstacle to getting change in the past.
Both here and across the country, we should say, in virtually every state.
Sure. But John went beyond that. He engaged with the cardinal himself, told the cardinal Roseanne's story, and he said, "I think it moved the cardinal as much as it moved me," and he agreed.
Did they get they got some changes that they were looking for? Did they not, the Catholic Church, or no?
Well, they got one change they particularly wanted, which was to have parity with the public institutions. And so they wanted to see that the statute of limitations would apply in the same way to governmental entities, which was done. What they didn't
Which
get,
protected them.
Yeah. What they didn't get, and which is still on the table, is having the $20,000 charitable immunity limit changed to the $100,000.
Would this change have happened without her?
No.
How does that make you feel?
Pretty grateful. I didn't do it alone.
But thousands of people potentially are going to be helped in immeasurable ways because of you. Because of you.
I feel like it was me. I grew up in Waltham, and my connections in Waltham are really great. And the whole community came together and really participated in actively calling and working hard to get this bill passed. And
But you were the point person.
pretty much, yeah.
When Monday, when the verdict came down, I hate the word closure, particularly from those of us who are not survivors. When we say that you get closure, what did Monday do for you? I mean, there's a verdict, that chapter is over. What does that mean to you, Roseanne?
So when the verdict was being read, I was confused. It was very confusing to understand. But when I left the courthouse, I felt cleansed. I felt like finally, after all these decades of lies, secrets, betrayal from the family, being estranged from the family, they took my grandmother, they took my cousins, people that I loved.
Because they wanted you to be quiet about this.
Yeah, so, and they also spread lies to extended family, which affected us greatly. So I left the courthouse feeling like a jury of 14 were able to decide on a verdict that was favorable to me, and I was able to give all that shame and all that guilt that I held for decades back to him. And it was the best feeling. You can't put a price tag on that. I mean, that was just...
Or on that smile, I should say. So I talked at the beginning, Carmen, about the state of the civil change, the civil statute of limitations, which was retroactive. Obviously, the Supreme Court has decided whatever change we made in the criminal statute to be able to prosecute people like this uncle is not a retroactive. Could you just quickly tell people what the state of the law is on the criminal side so people know at home?
Yeah, in 2006, the criminal statute of limitations in Massachusetts was substantially increased. There is no statute of limitations if you have corroborating evidence. But corroborating evidence is very hard to come by with child sexual abuse. So,
but it's going forward too, regardless. It is forward-looking, that statutory change.
If it happens after 2006.
So where do you go? What do you do? Where do you go from here? I don't mean here, but where do you go? Do you keep talking about this? Do you keep crusading? Well, you probably don't see yourself as a crusader, but you are. What do you do next, Roseanne?
Well, I put a lot of my efforts part-time as a volunteer with the Enough Abuse campaign. And I want to try to be more involved in that in the future. But right now, just healing from the 2 weeks of being completely exposed, all these years of, it's like my life is going to be changed completely. So I have to figure that out, but I think it'll be some sort of peer advocacy or leadership with other survivors, and I hope that by me coming forward, it will help other survivors feel the courage to do so.
I think it has. Carmen, congratulations. Your work through the years. You're a remarkable person. It is really a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for all you've done. And I wish you luck.
Can I just say how
Yes.
much I appreciate how much you've supported this over the years, too. I remember when the Speaker would come here and you would ask him every time, are you going to pass an amendment to the sexual abuse statute?
Well, had I not been harassed by people like you and Garabedian, I never would have done it. So thank you all.
Sure. Thank
Good
you.
luck.